Thanks everyone for joining us today. We're going to make some helicopters. So, as I said, you might have a template that you've printed out. If you have a template, you can go ahead and hold it up to the camera so I know that you have one. All right, a couple people do. So, if you don't have a template, that's all right. I'm gonna tilt my camera down. And if you don't have a template, you're gonna try to draw something that looks pretty similar to this, but doesn't have to look exactly that way. So we'll start. I have a pen, you might have a pencil. If you have a ruler, you can use one of those to make straight lines, but otherwise you can just go ahead and sort of estimate it. And we know we want a long, thin strip of paper here. So I like to draw mine out first, and I'm gonna just sort of eyeball it. And if it's not perfect, that's okay. And then about halfway through the paper, I'm gonna add a dotted line to mirror this dotted line right here. And then I'll draw a nice straight line, sort of dividing this rectangle in half. And I'll give everyone a quick second to keep doing those drawings, just in case you're still drawing yours. All right. And then the last bit is a little bit trickier. So we don't need to add our Science Center logo here, but we do want to add some of these other lines. So I'm gonna move down maybe an inch from this dotted line and add a straight line that comes in just a little ways, just like that. And then from that, I add a bunch of dotted lines going all the way to the edge of my paper. And then finally, we add one more dotted line. I need to add this one right here to my paper. So I'll go up maybe the same distance that I had in between this dotted line and these straight lines to right here. I'm gonna go all the way across. Does everyone have a template that looks something like this? Give me a thumbs up if you have a printed template or one that is drawn out. That's pretty close. Trey and Corinne, are you still working on yours? Okay. So if you have this printed out or you're just finishing it up, that is okay. The key here is going to be that on the solid lines like this one, or on this solid line on our template, those are going to be where we use our scissors. On the dotted lines, that's going to be where we fold. So I'll tilt my camera back down so you can see. So I'm going to start by cutting out this strip of paper. And again, I want to keep it straight. I didn't draw a very straight line, but I can try to cut one. I have a nice strip of paper to work with. I then want to cut down this middle line that goes just about halfway through my paper. If you need an adult's help with the scissors, this is a good time to ask for some help because they can be tricky and a little sharp, so you want to be careful there. Finally, we have these two little solid lines that go in just a little bit here. We can cut those out just a little bit. You don't want to go very far into the paper. And that is it for cutting.
Looks like some people have already done some decorating.
That is awesome. This is the perfect time to start decorating if you have an idea of what your helicopter might look like. But sometimes it's hard to tell from this template. I'll give you some hints though. These long ones that sort of look like bunny ears are going to be our helicopter blades. So these are going to end up folded. And then this here is going to be the body of our helicopter. So if you want to do some coloring, you can do it now before we fold it, or you can wait. That is totally okay. All right, let me get some thumbs up if we're ready to start folding. I got some thumbs up from Dexter. Looks like Oliver's ready. Nippon. All right, we are all set. So tilt my camera back down. So our dotted lines are going to be where we fold. So I'm going to turn mine upside down because it's a little easier, but I'm going to fold along this dotted line first. This long one that's just underneath that cut, and I'm going to fold it over just like that.
All right, now you
Then
have to do your cuts first. So if you haven't done your cuts yet, you want to cut on those solid lines first.
That's
and
exactly right.
Then you'll want to fold on those
Yeah.
dotted lines.
And if
yeah,
you're
Nippon,
using,
do you have a question?
go ahead, Nippon.
Is this right?
Let's take a look. So my guess, I was about to say, so did you use the template?
Yes, I did have the template.
Yeah, and my guess is that there isn't, I was about to say, there's not a solid line at the edge of this paper, so you probably have it a little longer. Is it a little wider on this edge? Is that what happened?
Yes.
So you could cut along, you could sort of think about where these lines estimate or end and cut a straight line across that. Or if you think you're going to have trouble with that, you could use this next template down where there is two nice borders. The other thing, again, it's a little tricky. It depends on how your printer worked, but you could, if you wanted to, you could cut along this edge because the picture doesn't go right up to the end. And you could do the same thing here, but you can leave it long. That's a little bit better than leaving it a little too wide.
Yeah,
Does that answer your question, Nippon?
You want those two blades to be about the same width.
Yeah, so rather than having this skinny one and this really wide one, you'll want to trim it down, or it might just be easier to use this next one down. Good question. I should have thought about that, because if you're using a printed out one, sometimes the printer puts the template in a funny space or shrinks it down a little bit. All right. So I'm going to tilt my camera back down, and once you have your cuts done, we'll start doing our folds like I said before, and the first fold I'm doing is this one right here. So I'm going to fold it back along that dotted line I made, or you already have a dotted line, and then I'm going to do the same thing with the other side. I'm going to turn it over just because it's easier for me to fold, but I am folding along that dotted line. So I end up with something that sort of looks like this. I didn't quite hit my dashed lines, but I think that's because they weren't very straight, to be honest. So I have a nice thin body. That's because I folded this backside in.
Really.
All right, how are we doing so far? Does anybody want to share show us their helicopter?
We're not
Alright.
quite done, so maybe we'll hold off, but we have 2 more or 3 more folds left, and then you'll see your helicopter and you can really think about how to decorate. So
we'll get to test it.
Yeah, we'll also get to test it, which will be the really fun part. So there's this dashed line going across the bottom of my helicopter, and I can fold that up. So I have a nice heavy part here. So it's going to be nice and thick, and in a little bit we'll put a paper clip there. But our final fold is going to be with our blades here. And this is where it gets a little tricky. You're going to fold these blades, but you don't want to fold them in the same direction. You want to fold them in opposite directions. So I'm going to fold one this way, one that way. So I end up with something that looks just like this.
I like the designs on Oliver's helicopter. Dexter, looks like you've got one that looks just about ready to go. Nippon,
Nice.
looks like you have one that's ready to go. Awesome. Oliver has his. Trey and Corinne, are you making helicopters or are you drawing some helicopters?
It is totally okay if you want to draw, but that way we'll know whether we're ready to go.
Drawing. Like this.
You're drawing, cool.
Awesome.
So if you want to decorate, you could decorate now or you could wait. But the next step, if you're ready to keep going, is to take a paper clip and slip it on this bottom part that we folded up. And that's going to hold that fold up. It's also going to add some extra weight. And I like to try it with one first, and then I might test it later. And at this point, your helicopter is ready to be tested. So what
If
you can
have
do is,
different sizes of paper clips, you could also test those.
that's right, I actually have this little paper clip, and then I found in my drawer a nice big gold one, which I might try later. I don't think the gold will change how it flies, but it might look really cool, and the size is going to matter. All right, so if you want to test it, I'm going to see if I can back away. So,
All right, are you guys ready to test?
are we good?
Like some of you are. Awesome. So you might want to find a place where you can get up a little bit higher. Right, so Peter's going to back off so he can try it just from where he's standing, but maybe later you'd want to try, I don't know, if you have some stairs, maybe you'd want to try it up there, but we'll try it just standing for now and see how it goes for our first test.
So my first test, I just like to get up. I'm raising it up pretty high, but you might have to have an adult help you, or you might have to find somewhere tall to drop it, maybe off some stairs, like Elizabeth said. And I'm just going to drop it and see how it goes. I'm going to try that again, but I'm going to tilt the camera down so you can see it a little bit better. You can see I think my dog is sleeping right on camera for you. Did you see it spin? How did everyone else's work? Did they spin too when you drop it? I am seeing some folks sort of tossing it in the air, which is great. My tip is actually to hold the base of it where it's paperclip and throw it up just like that, rather than trying to throw it while it's upright. If you turn it sort of upside down, it'll fix itself. All right. If it's flying really well and you want to try some other things, does anyone have any ideas for things we could change about our helicopters besides decorating it that might change how it flies? Nippon, do you have an idea? Go ahead and unmute yourself.
You're unmuted now.
Maybe we could like color it or decorate it.
We can definitely do that. And that's a really fun thing to do, where you can decorate your blades or draw a cool picture on here. Do you think that would affect how it flies?
Maybe not, but it would definitely make it look cooler.
I totally agree. Making it look cooler is really fun.
Dexter, did you get to try yours?
Yeah.
How'd it work?
Good.
Yeah, are you gonna make any changes to it, or are you happy with how it flies right now?
I'm happy how it flies right now, but I heard once if you put I heard like sometimes if you like draw with markers on like a paper airplane, it won't fly that good anymore. So I'm probably just good the way it is right now.
So that's a great thing to think about. And actually, I think you're right. Sometimes if you use markers, it's got all that liquid dye in it, and the paper gets all soggy. But if you have colored pencils or crayons, you won't necessarily have the same problem. So you should feel free to decorate. And also, you could try it with markers and see how it goes. Some other things we could change. We talked about maybe you add some more weight in the form of another paper clip. You could also try changing the angle of your wings or your blades. Maybe I try to fold them up a little bit. Maybe that's a different angle. Or I could try folding them at an angle like this, so they're sort of wacky and coming at an angle. That could change things. You can change all sorts of different ideas here.
And if you have the template, or if you had a piece of paper where you made the template, you might have a lot more of that paper left, a lot more helicopters that you could make. So if you have a couple ideas, or if you have something that you're afraid might change it negatively, you can try it on a new one, so that if you have one that you really like and then you want to make a change, you might be able to test out a different one, and then you can test them at the same time, right? If you have two different helicopters and you're wondering which might be better for flying, you could make two of them at the same time and then drop them together, and that way you can test maybe which one would hit the ground first.
Like a race.
Yeah, exactly. You could do like a race with your helicopters.
What might be cool is to try to do a reverse race, where you drop them and see which one could stay in the air the longest rather than which one could hit the ground the fastest. That could be fun too.
Right, because if we're thinking about a helicopter, we might want our helicopter to be better at staying in the air than getting to the ground fast, right? We definitely don't want to crash landing. Dexter, how did your test go?
Good.
Yeah, did you make any changes?
No, not
No.
yet.
Do you like it how it is?
Bit.
Can you
Might-
think of a change you might try out to see if it works?
Mm, Maybe sometime.
Maybe sometime. Do you have the template, Dexter, with other helicopters you could make? Yeah, so if you wanted to test something out, you could try it on one of those other ones so that you don't have to worry about messing up the one that you really like right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the nice thing about making little prototypes and miniature models of things, is that if I was building a full-size helicopter and it worked, I'd probably be hesitant to make changes because it would be expensive and a lot of work to rebuild it. But with these, if you try something and it doesn't work, you can just make a new one, and it's not too much work to try something else. And that's a big part of engineering, right? It's thinking about changes that you've made and making observations and seeing what works and what doesn't work, testing things out.